Look at them. I'm not exactly sure why, but they're just sitting there.
Hey, what's up everybody? This is VisitJoan, and this is going to be a little bit different from what you typically find on Sims YouTube. It's kind of more like what you find on AuthorTube, and I'm not really sure if you guys are really all that into that, but I do know for a fact that there's at least one person who will watch this video, so I'm doing it. So basically what this is I'm gonna basically go over the entire, history of That Fateful Night from the original idea and how it became what it is today. And that is because the novel itself has recently turned 10. But anyway, a lot has happened since then, and so I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of a recap as to how it became what it is today. So in order for you to understand a little bit of where this is coming from, I have to tell you a couple of things about myself. Now, my childhood wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't horrible either. I mean, trust me, it could have been a lot worse, but it also left a lot to be desired. For starters, I am an only child, and for those of you that have siblings that really want to be only children, you don't. Trust me, there are so many inconveniences that come with that. It really is just more of a burden than it is a good thing. But that was what I had to deal with growing up. And a lot of times, I don't even know, maybe I was lonely and I didn't really realize it because, well, I didn't know what lonely felt like because I was never with anybody. One of the best, I really don't really want to go back to my childhood because it wasn't all that great, but there were some genuine good things about it, like when my cousins would come over for a sleepover, we would have a blast, they'd stay for like a week long, and then when they would leave, I would just like sink into, that kind of like depressive state you have when you just finished your favorite TV show and you're just sitting there like, what do I do now? Yeah, it was pretty much that. And add to the fact that I didn't have a lot of friends, and most of them were kids around the neighborhood, and they were all younger than me. So when it came to school, I really didn't have anyone to hang out with. And that was the beginning. Basically, as a kid, I had a lot of issues, and I'm not going to go into that right now. But if you follow me on Twitter, you probably have seen my thread about what it was like growing up with ADHD and how much of an issue that was for me. So basically, long story short is that I was in special ed, and that label brings with it a lot of assumptions, and you guys know how to spell the word assume, I'm assuming. So, yeah, you probably know where this is going. But anyway, I had a lot of people that were basically, thought I wasn't doing the work I was doing or stuff like that. Or even when I knew they were pushing me around, they wrote it off as I was having behavior issues. And one of the really infuriating things is that anytime I screwed up or made the even tiniest mistake, I would have 3 adults breathing down my back about it. My teacher would talk to me about it, and then I'd get home and my mom would talk to me about it. And by the time I got to my special ed teacher, it was really just getting annoying. It was like, I've been lectured about this twice already. I don't need to be hearing it from you too. So to compensate for that, me as a creative person and as a writer who has been telling stories ever since she could string a sentence together, I lived basically 2 lives. The real one and kind of an alternate one that was in my own imagination with an alternate version of myself where things were just so much better. It was actually fun. Like, I lived in a Pokemon gym, I was best friends with the Powerpuff Girls, I saved the world with Kim Possible, and I was a member of the Teen Titans. Well, actually, technically I still am, but, oh wait, wrong reality. That will come into handy a little bit later, but that's kind of where I was when my journey with The Sims began. I'm thinking it was like, I think June. Well, I have a picture of one of my so-called friends, because when I finally did get friends, they weren't really my friends, but again, a long story. One of my so-called friends playing The Sims 1 in June of 2004, so I know I had it since then. I've told you the story time and time again. But anyway, you guys, The Sims 2 came out a couple weeks when I was into 8th grade. And I've said this before, one of the most interesting things about The Sims 2 was that there was an actual story going on. And part of that was, that Bella Goth was missing. Now, at first, I just wasn't really all that interested in it. But as I started playing the game, I started, playing. I decided I had the strategy guide, and I decided, I was going to go around and do, like, the tutorials except for Dawn's because I just didn't really want to woo-hoo in The Sims at all back then. Like, honestly, like, I only made Sims do that if they wanted to have kids, and that was because you had to. But anyway, with following the tutorials, the second one is in the Goth household, which has Cassandra attempt to marry Don. And I'm not gonna lie, the first time I played it, he did leave her at the altar, and I quit without saving. I was like, oh no, Don, you made your bed, now you're gonna lie in it! I tortured him, I swear. But again, as I was playing, I really liked the feature of, you know, adopting children, so I had Cassandra and Don do that, and it was a boy named Randy, and then I had them have a couple of children of their own. So basically, a lot of the things that happened in That Fateful Night in between the start of The Sims 2 and when the story takes place reflect things that actually happened in my own game. And I kind of quit playing around the time when Amanda became a child and Cassandra was expecting her second baby. That baby was actually never born. I just made it a girl because why not? And you know, the strategy guide also just said, hey guys, psst, Belagov is a townie in Strange Town. And I know, guys, it's not the correct Bella, but 14-year-old me didn't know that, and for the sake of the story, it is, so deal with it. So I decided, you know what, I was going to move the Goth family to Strangetown. And of course, they were in two separate households, so when I did that, all the family ties became undone, and it was just really, like, messed up. Like, what? But anyway, it was, like, around December or something like that. It was probably, like, you know, winter break, which is kind of why Bella is found on Christmas Eve. But I also created, you know, a family for myself and put them in Strangetown. And I gave myself a little sister because, again, only child, I wanted to have some company. But anyway, I had basically me and Randy basically stand at the Strangetown spa for a while, just waiting. They're waiting for Belagov to show up because I figured, you know what, if she is a townie in Strangetown, we waited a community lot long enough, she'll eventually show up. And that pretty much never happened because, well, my computer was really, really slow and it could barely handle The Sims 2, and I could only invite 2 people to parties, and no townies showed up at community lot, just like 1 or 2 of them. But that was where the original idea was born, is that Joanna is a lot like me and modeled after my 14-year-old self, because when I first came up with the story, she was me, and I was 14 at the time. So after that, I kind of came up with a number of funny scenarios, and I, as I usually do, became super, super obsessed with it. Eat, breathe, sleep it, eat, you guys know. And this happened basically through the rest of 8th grade and into high school. Now, one thing you guys probably need to know about high school is that my first semester of freshman year wasn't all that great because here's the thing. The middle school I went to fed into 2 different high schools because the middle school and the high school were in 2 different districts. And 2/3 of the students at my middle school went to one high school and another third went to another one. And I was in the 1/3 that went to the other one. And so not only was that just a bunch of weird because my teacher was like, well, we can't prepare you for high school because we don't know anything about the school you're going to. But it also meant that most of the people I had made friends with at this time had gone to another school. So it was like I was back at stage 1, back in 6th grade. I really didn't know anybody and have anyone to hang out with, and I was just miserable. However, this happened to be a blessing in disguise because most of those friends weren't really my friends, and all the people who made fun of me in middle school went to that high school as well, so I didn't have to deal with them again. And basically, after a few tweaks to my schedule, I was with a friend of mine in a couple of my classes. So, things got a little bit better. But one day we got in a fight over something ridiculously stupid, and she told me, remember when you talked about Teen Titans? I liked it when you do that. Why can't you do that? So, that weekend, I popped in the Teen Titans DVD, and after watching it, I kinda had a revelation. Because I realized that the Teen Titan version of myself was who I wanted to be. And honestly, all the Sim stuff with Bella and everything left a sour taste in my mouth. I wanted nothing to do with it after that. Looking back on it, I kind of think that this is probably the universe, my muse, or some sort of spirit guide telling me, Joan, now is not the time. So, I put everything in the back of my head and went through the rest of high school. Although I was a lot more connected with reality with this whole thing, there were people who thought I couldn't distinguish fantasy from reality. Oh please, I could, I just didn't want to. About a week before graduation, The Sims 3 was released. I was taking Honors Accelerated Pre-Calc and Honors Physics and basically all this other stuff that took up most of my time. So I hadn't followed the Sims news at all, and so I didn't really know what I was getting into when I played The Sims 3. But there it was once I opened up the game, and there were Mortimer and Bella as kids. And I kind of didn't really, was like super into it, but I kind of became interested in it again because, well, I didn't want to go back into the whole story thing, but it didn't have a bad taste in my mouth either. And to be completely honest with you, I didn't want to lose the connection I had with my alternate self. It was kind of just a part of me, and I didn't want anything to get in the way of that. I was kind of afraid of it, it's kind of weird. You probably wouldn't understand. But one day about October, November, I don't remember when, I was just lying in bed, and I just had this idea. What if there was a way to connect my Teen Titans reality with Bella Goth? And that was the beginning of That Fateful Night as we know it. And to be honest, when I come up with titles, it's really weird. I either come up with them right away or I wait until I finish writing, and then sometimes it'll just come to me. But this is the one that came up right away. I knew from the beginning that I wanted to call it That Fateful Night. So basically, the idea was that Raven and I, Raven, who is my best friend, long story, I do have an origin story that I came up with, but I've never successfully written that down. I kind of don't want to. That will become important later. But anyway, the idea was that Raven and I somehow got transported into the Sims world, which was a real world in a kind of alternate parallel universe kind of thing. And we were tasked with figuring out what really happened to Bella. And of course, I took a lot of the old ideas that I had back from 8th grade and kind of made like a brand new storyline, because at this time I was older and I knew that some of the decisions I had made back then were like ridiculous, and I had to, basically work it out and make it, believable. But after that, I pretty much got to work. That December, whenever I started writing it, and 5 months and a couple of failed Calc 2 quizzes later, I had the entire book written. And I can't really explain to you guys how amazing that was, because the hardest part of writing for me is actually getting the ideas onto paper. If you follow me on Twitter, you know that I didn't learn to type efficiently until I was 14. So it was really kind of hard to actually get anything down. And I had tried several other times of trying to get, Sim stories, but I never finished them. This was the first story, well, the first one of that was novel length, but also the first one that wasn't for a school assignment that I finished. And that remains my greatest accomplishment. And no, my greatest accomplishment isn't graduating university because, well, let's be honest, that was just me going through the motions. Eventually, it would have happened. Whereas with That Fateful Night, I put a conscious effort into it every day. I worked on a little bit every day. For those 5 months, that was all I did. That Fateful Night and school. That was my life. And so when I was done with it, I had the same feeling I felt when my cousins would leave after a great sleepover. What am I going to do now? I honestly didn't want to quit writing about them because I enjoyed it so much. And along the way, I kind of realized that although I like watching movies that are more action-based, I really didn't like writing that. I really liked writing about the family and the dynamics and everything that happened to them and how they worked everything out. So yeah, that was an interesting discovery I made about myself. But anyway, I had the book written, it was done, I edited it. Later, I kind of put it up through increments. And then, well, life does what it does, and it got busy again, and so I had to put it down for another couple of years. Kind of back in 2013, I kind of got back into it again and started writing a little bit here and there, and I had come up with some stories, and I just, I don't know. And I kind of did that. I never really finished any of them, though. I think I finished one that I did put up last year, but they kind of went until about spring of 2016 when I just suddenly kind of lost interest. And now that I think about it, that was probably depression rearing its ugly head again. And that was also a point where life was really just starting to beat down on me, and it just wasn't fun at all. And I could go into pretty much the details of it, but I'm not going to because we'd be here all day. But anyway, I had always meant to get back into it, but I never found the time until around, I think it was February 2018 when, ComEd was doing some weird thing with the power and stuff like that, and it was going to be off for a period of time, and of course I didn't really have anything to do, so I said, you know what, I'm going to draw some pictures again. And I did that, and I kind of got back into it. I kind of started writing it again. And Trouble in Paradise kind of came into being around this time, but that's a completely separate video. But anyway, you guys, that's the story. That's That Fateful Night, from what it was when I first came up to it, to all the way to what it is now. I hope those of you that did watch this video enjoyed it. If you did, I would really appreciate you leaving a like. And of course, don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more, although it may not be this kind of thing. I might do one for Trouble in Paradise, but I don't know when that's going to be. If you want to see more Sims content, you could just subscribe if you want to. Also, you can feel free to follow me on social media, where I do share kind of like fun facts, behind the scenes, little snippets, kind of stuff that's what's going on in my game. And you can follow me on Instagram at VisitJoan or Twitter at VisitJoan Videos. But anyway, I'm going to get up out of here now. And bye everyone, I'll be seeing you in the next video.